Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports, and we're going to recap Game 1 of the 2023 NBA Finals. So, Tim, you ready to go?
Let's run it.
Let's do it. The Nuggets took Game 1, winning by a score of 104-93. They got ahead early, up by as much as 17 by halftime, 59-42. They started out playing really well, playing really high-efficient team basketball. It kind of fell off as the Miami Heat came back, but it wasn't enough to take the game. Nikola Jokic was kind of the do-it-all man for the Nuggets with 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 14 assists, a triple-double. He is the second player in NBA history to have a triple-double in his NBA Finals debut. He was absolutely fantastic, along with Jamal Murray, 26 points on 11 for 22 shooting from the field. He was really good, and the Nuggets just in general played really, really well from start to finish. On the other side, Jimmy Butler was not the leading scorer for the Heat. He had 13 points, 6 of 14 from the field. Bam Adebayo had a little bit of a resurgence, 26 points on 13 of 25 shooting. He had a lot of the scoring responsibility as well as 13 rebounds. So, Tim, what do we have from Game 1?
I think this is a story of efficiency, especially when you look at that first half. The reason why the Nuggets were able to jump out to such a big lead was they played very, very efficient basketball. And I heard on the broadcast, and I think it's a very good point, you are in a very good position. And some of the best teams is when your superstar is a facilitator. When Jokic was looking to find other guys, obviously there has to be so much attention on him because of his scoring capability. I mean, he still got 27 points. But in the first half, it was all about him finding other people. And one of the guys that really benefited off of that was Aaron Gordon. In that first quarter, I believe he had 12 first quarter points. And a lot of that was he had a physical mismatch on the offensive end. We know that Miami plays small, and he was the one that benefited a lot from that at the get-go. When Miami switches on a lot of their screens, Aaron Gordon has the ability to get on some of those smaller guys and either take him to the basket, or one of the things that he did very well is well-timed back cuts, which has helped Jokic get a lot of those assists. He's obviously a fantastic passer, fantastic facilitator, and he made that known early and often. And they were just shooting a lot better than the Heat to start. In that first half, the Heat just did not shoot very well. They were getting shots. They weren't. It wasn't like the Nuggets defense was completely locking them down, but they were not hitting a lot of open shots that they have been in some of these previous games. That was where you saw the Heat struggle a little bit against the Celtics, and you saw that same aspect there. When they're not making their shots, they struggle. When they're on, and when you get Jimmy in, when he's locked in, and you got those role guys that are knocking down their shots when they get them, that's when they're playing their best basketball. But in that first half, it was all Nuggets.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially with Aaron Gordon and Jokic being a facilitator. They started off so well. They started off so hot, moving, grooving, passing the ball. And we talked about what the big mismatch was for Jokic as a big, but we also didn't kind of realize how that would trickle down into some of the Nuggets' other bigs, because Aaron Gordon is a really, really big
Miami
guy.
Heat, they're just a small team. And the problem is the Nuggets are the opposite. They're a big team. You look at some of the size, even in their wingers, with Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon, and even guys like Bruce Brown, who's not a small guy himself off the bench.
Yeah,
they're able to use that physicality to their advantage, and they're an aggressive team.
And I think that's just part of the reason why the Nuggets are so good. They're a physically imposing team that shoots really, really well. Their bigs can shoot well, and their shooting guards and their shooters, they can shoot really, really well. And you mentioned on the other side, the Miami Heat, how well they shot. It was kind of a nightmare at times because some of their bench guys that usually step in just did not, mainly Max Strus and Caleb Martin, who between the two of them had 3 points combined on 1 for 17 shooting from the field.
1-3 from Caleb Martin in that third quarter. You just those guys. There's some games where they're just not on, and this was not one of them. I'm sure we'll see them recover and shoot better later on, but the problem is when you get a combined performance from two guys like that usually are a pretty decent load of the scoring, it's hard to come back from, and especially in the second half. The Heat did a good job of slowing down the Nuggets. They made some adjustments on defense. They went to a little bit of that zone. What I even saw in the third and fourth quarter is rather than going, they were getting diced up a little bit by having Jokic in the middle of when the Heat tried to go to that 2-3 zone. But one of the things they did was a little bit of a matchup 1-3-1. So have someone in the center there to clog up whatever they try to get going in the middle, because the Nuggets love running sets with screens and action right at the free throw line in the center there. Clog that lane up, and then when they kick out, match up to whatever guys are on the outside and in the middle there, and then let the weak side go. So they did a good job of disrupting.
That just kind of seems like a winning basketball formula, because what you're describing to me sounds like a lot of what we talked about in that infamous Purdue versus Fairleigh Dickinson game, with how FDU kind of collapsed in on Zach Edey.
Yes, clog the lane, try to disrupt them farther away from the basket. And when you saw the Heat essentially collapse later on, is when they were trying to make that comeback and they were getting shots and getting moving. They were forced to go more man-to-man, and Jokic was able to get the ball in that mid to low post range and go one-on-one with his defender. The best defense for them was when they were able to get him to get rid of the ball around that free throw line area and force the rest of the team to make plays.
Just get a little bit of help on Jokic, force him to dish, because a one-on-one matchup is just a nightmare for
anybody.
And
he still got 27. I mean, it clearly didn't do that much, but yeah.
I mean, it only took him 12 shots from the field to get there. A lot of that was due to a really great shooting performance from the line, going.
I was going to say on
12.
No kidding. I mean, obviously, when you get to the free throw line a lot, which, keep in mind, the Miami Heat set a playoff record for the least free throws attempted in playoffs, with a grand total of 2 the whole game. The previous record was 3. So that also is not a winning formula for the Heat, is you got to be able to try to get to the line and be aggressive. Now, part of it was there wasn't a whole lot of fouls called around the basket for the Heat on the other end. I know there was a lot of times where Bam Adebayo got into the lane and was trying to make a couple tough shots that definitely could have had some fouls go his way that didn't. But speaking of Bam Adebayo, we talked about the fact that we thought he would struggle in this series. They found a way to get him going in a way that I didn't necessarily expect. Yes, at least on offense. But that's where I thought he would struggle, because I thought he had a tough time against Al Horford. I didn't think he was going to have much success against Jokic. But one of the things they did a great job with was utilizing the pick and roll. So get Jokic in the screen up top, and then get Bam getting the ball while moving towards the basket. He is best when he is moving towards the basket and not having to be in a traditional post-up sense, because he's not that big. He's athletic, but he's not that big for a center. So get him moving towards the basket.
What you are describing is the quintessential pick and roll. The big sets a pick, and then he rolls to the basket, which should create a wide open layup.
See, it should, except for the fact that some teams do a better job of hedging and getting back than others. It's either you switch, but with the situation with Jokic and those guards, you really can't get a true switch with Jokic. So they do try to hedge and get back, but they were doing a good job of getting that pass accurately over the top. And getting him the ball on the move towards the basket. So he got a lot of shots, and he was able to score pretty well. But I mean, you talk about him getting those 26 points and Jokic getting 27, but Adebayo put up double the amount of shots that Jokic did. Yeah. So once again, it's that efficiency that really makes the difference for the Nuggets.
And one more thing before we wrap this up. Haywood Highsmith off the bench for the Miami Heat was really big. I agree.
He was a bright spot on a very dull Miami Heat team today. The big thing for him is his size. So Miami Heat, obviously not a big team, as we've talked about. He's 6'4", listed as a forward on that team. And he's very, very solid defensively as well. We saw him put on a pretty good defensive show in the Celtics series as well. And here he led the team with 2 steals in this game. So he can help them not only in the defensive side, but also just being a straight up bigger player for disruption on the defensive end. And if he can keep up even remotely the kind of offensive efficiency that he had this game, he played 23 minutes, got 18 points on 7 of 10 shooting and 2 for 4 from 3. So if you can get that kind of points, as well as be that kind of defensive presence, he absolutely needs 20 plus minutes a game every single game.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the thing that you mentioned, he's 6'4", which in a basketball sense is not that big, but he plays so much bigger than his actual height, how he's able to disrupt defensively. And you're right, the Heat generally run a smaller set. You'll see 3, sometimes 4 guards on the floor at one time, whether it be Vincent, Martin, Strus. I mean, Jimmy Butler is listed as a small to power forward on that team, and
Mm-mm.
he came into
Uh-uh.
the league like with the Bulls, the Timberwolves, and
Yeah,
the
the
Sixers,
true
and played
shooting guard,
shooting
basically.
guard. Yeah,
Yeah.
having a shooting guard try to play power forward. He's not LeBron James. Nobody is LeBron James. LeBron James is LeBron James, and LeBron James has played all 5 positions on the basketball court, and nobody else has really done that. Although where the game is trending positionless, maybe they could make it work, but Jimmy's not Bron. But
No.
to sort of wrap this all up, Nuggets take game 1, game 2 in a few days in Denver. We'll see if the Nuggets can take a 2-0 lead, or if the Heat can take a game and
They need to
tie
make
it
some
up.
serious adjustments, that's for sure.
But that's all we got for our game 1 recap of the 2023 NBA Finals. We'll be bringing you recaps throughout the rest of the finals as the series goes along. We gave you a preview of this series and a recap of the Western and Eastern Conference Finals if you want to see how these two teams got here. We have so much other sports stuff, whether it be MLB, NFL, college basketball, NHL, and whatever else you guys want. So until next time, like and subscribe for more from us, and we out.